What if I told you that somewhere in a forgotten psychiatric ward in rural Ohio, there exists a recording that linguists refuse to study? A tape containing over 400 hours of an unknown language, spoken by a man who couldn't utter a single word while awake. This is the story of Marcus Whitmore, the silent patient who became one of the most disturbing medical mysteries of the 20th century. The year was 1967 when Marcus first arrived at Millbrook State Hospital. He was 20 years old, completely mute, and had been found wandering the highways of southeastern Ohio with no identification, no memory of his past, and not a single word to explain where he came from. The police reports described him as clean, well-dressed, but utterly unresponsive to any form of communication. He could hear perfectly, showed signs of intelligence, but remained locked in absolute silence. What the day shift never witnessed was what happened when Marcus fell asleep. Every single night, without exception, Marcus Whitmore would begin speaking in his dreams. But these weren't the mumbled fragments most people produce during REM sleep. Marcus spoke clearly, fluently, and for hours at a time in what appeared to be a completely unknown language. Dr. Helena Voss, the night shift psychiatrist, was the first to document this phenomenon. She described the experience as deeply unsettling. Marcus would lie perfectly still, his eyes moving rapidly beneath closed lids, while streams of incomprehensible words flowed from his lips. The cadence was human, the emotion unmistakable, but the language itself seemed to follow no earthly linguistic patterns. The recordings began in month 2 of Marcus's stay. Dr. Voss had convinced the hospital administration to install recording equipment in his room, believing that understanding his dream speech might unlock the mystery of his selective mutism. What they captured defied explanation. Night after night, Marcus would speak for anywhere between 3 to 7 hours, sometimes in what sounded like conversations with invisible participants, other times in what appeared to be long, desperate monologues. The hospital brought in linguists from Ohio State University. Professor Richard Carmichael, who had studied over 40 languages and had experience with constructed languages and linguistic anomalies, spent weeks analyzing the recordings. His conclusion was both fascinating and disturbing. The language Marcus spoke contained structural elements that seemed to blend features from languages that had never had historical contact with each other. Even more puzzling, some of the phonetic patterns appeared to mirror dead languages that had been extinct for centuries. But it was Dr. Sarah Chen, a specialist in psycholinguistics, who made the most chilling observation. She noticed that Marcus's dream language contained recurring themes and what appeared to be proper nouns that kept appearing in his nocturnal speeches. Using statistical analysis, she identified over 200 distinct terms that Marcus repeated with consistency, as if referring to specific people, places, or concepts in this unknown tongue. Month 6 brought the first breakthrough, and with it, the first hint that Marcus Whitmore might be something far more disturbing than a simple case of psychological trauma. Dr. Chen had been working with a computer program designed to identify patterns in the recordings when she discovered something that made her blood run cold. Hidden within Marcus's flowing speeches were fragments of Latin, Ancient Greek, and what appeared to be Akkadian, a language that had been dead for over 2,000 years. These weren't random words or phrases that someone might learn from a textbook. Marcus was using these ancient languages grammatically, weaving them into his mysterious primary language with the fluency of a native speaker. When Dr. Chen brought this discovery to Professor Carmichael, his reaction was immediate and decisive. He refused to continue working on the case. The recordings from month 7 marked a dramatic shift in Marcus's nocturnal behavior. His dream speeches became increasingly agitated, filled with what could only be described as pleading or bargaining. Dr. Voss noted that he began to sweat profusely during these episodes. His heart rate spiked dramatically, and on several occasions, he would wake up screaming in absolute terror, only to return to his daytime silence. It was during this period that the hospital staff began reporting strange occurrences. Nurses working the night shift complained of hearing whispers in the corridors when Marcus was speaking in his dreams. The hospital's chaplain, Father Mackenzie, refused to enter Marcus's wing after claiming he heard what sounded like prayers being recited backward in Latin. During one of Marcus's episodes, the recordings from month 8 contained the discovery that would change everything. Dr. Chen, working alone in her office at 2 in the morning, was analyzing the most recent tape when she heard something that made her drop her coffee cup. Buried within Marcus's incomprehensible monologue, clear as daylight, were 3 words in perfect English. "Help me, please." The next morning, Dr. Chen played the recording for Dr. Voss. The English phrase appeared exactly 47 minutes into Marcus's dream speech, spoken with the same tone and cadence as the unknown language, but unmistakably clear. It was the first time in 8 months that Marcus Whitmore had spoken a word of English, and he had done it while unconscious. Dr. Voss decided to attempt communication. The following night, she sat beside Marcus's bed and waited for his dream speech to begin. When she heard the familiar flow of the unknown language, she spoke directly to him. "Marcus, we want to help you. Can you tell us what you need?" What happened next was recorded on tape, and the recording still exists in the hospital's archives, though accessing it requires special permission that is rarely granted. Marcus's dream speech stopped immediately. For nearly 10 minutes, he lay in complete silence while his eyes continued their rapid movement beneath closed lids. Then, in a voice that Dr. Voss later described as not quite his own, Marcus began to speak in English. He spoke for 3 hours straight, and what he revealed shattered everything the doctors thought they knew about his condition. Marcus claimed that he was not from Ohio, not from anywhere in America, and possibly not from anywhere that existed in the traditional sense. According to his dream testimony, he had been displaced from somewhere he called the second place and was trapped in what he referred to as the waking prison. The unknown language, Marcus explained, was the native tongue of the second place. He claimed that everyone there spoke it naturally, just as humans speak English or Spanish. But the truly disturbing part was his explanation for why he could only access this language while dreaming. According to Marcus, sleep was the only time when his consciousness could partially return to the second place. Allowing him to remember who he truly was, Dr. Voss pressed him for more details about this second place. Marcus described it as a realm that existed parallel to the waking world, populated by beings that were almost human, but not quite. He claimed that time moved differently there, that the landscape was familiar yet impossible, and that the inhabitants possessed knowledge of events that hadn't happened yet in the waking world. But the most chilling revelation came when Dr. Voss asked Marcus how he had come to be in Ohio. His response, delivered in a flat, emotionless tone, was that he had been chosen as a messenger but had failed in his mission. The displacement to the waking world was his punishment, and he would remain trapped in silence until he could fulfill his original purpose. When Dr. Voss asked what that purpose was, Marcus's response made her immediately end the session. In a voice that seemed to echo from somewhere far away, he said, "To warn them about what's coming through." The recordings from that night were immediately classified by the hospital administration. Dr. Voss was reassigned to the day shift, and Dr. Chen's research was terminated. Marcus was moved to a more secure wing of the hospital, and recording equipment was removed from his room. Officially, the case of Marcus Whitmore was closed due to lack of therapeutic progress. But the story doesn't end there. Hospital records show that Marcus continued his nightly dream speeches for another 4 months, though no official recordings were made. Night shift nurses reported that his speeches became increasingly urgent, filled with what sounded like warnings or prophecies. Some claimed they could occasionally make out English words mixed with the unknown language, phrases like "they're coming," "the barriers are failing," and most disturbingly, "it's already begun." On March 15, 1968, exactly 13 months after his arrival, Marcus Whitmore vanished from his locked room. Security footage from that night shows his room at 11:30 p.m. with Marcus lying in bed, apparently asleep. The next frame, recorded at 11:45 p.m., shows an empty room with no signs of struggle. The window was locked from the inside, the door remained secured, and there was no possible way for him to have left the room. The only trace of Marcus that remained was found the next morning. A message written on the wall above his bed in what appeared to be his own blood. The message was in the unknown language he had spoken in his dreams, and despite extensive efforts, it was never translated. Hospital maintenance painted over it within hours, but not before Dr. Voss managed to photograph it. Years later, Dr. Voss would publish a heavily censored account of the Marcus Whitmore case in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology. She omitted the more disturbing details, focusing instead on the linguistic aspects of his condition. The article sparked brief academic interest, but was quickly forgotten as other cases took precedence. What Dr. Voss never revealed publicly was what happened in the months following Marcus's disappearance. She began experiencing vivid dreams in which she could understand fragments of the unknown language Marcus had spoken. In these dreams, she claimed Marcus would visit her and continue his warnings about something he called the convergence. Dr. Chen, meanwhile, suffered a complete nervous breakdown 6 months after the case ended. She was found in her office at 3 a.m, frantically writing page after page of the same unknown language Marcus had spoken in his dreams. When asked how she knew the language, she claimed she had been taught in her sleep by someone she described as the man who couldn't stay awake. The most disturbing development came 2 years after Marcus's disappearance. 3 patients at different psychiatric facilities across Ohio were admitted with identical symptoms: complete daytime mutism, coupled with nightly episodes of speaking in an unknown language. When recordings were made of these patients, linguistic analysis revealed they were speaking the exact same language Marcus had used. None of these patients had ever met Marcus or had any connection to Millbrook State Hospital. They had been found in different cities, under different circumstances, but all shared the same impossible condition. When attempts were made to communicate with them during their dream speeches, each patient delivered variations of the same message: the barriers are failing, and we need more messengers. The recordings of these 3 patients were classified by state authorities and transferred to federal custody. The patients themselves were relocated to an undisclosed facility, and their cases were sealed under national security provisions. The few doctors who had worked with them were required to sign extensive non-disclosure agreements. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of the Marcus Whitmore case isn't what was documented, but what continues to happen. According to unofficial reports from psychiatric hospitals across the Midwest, cases of dream language syndrome continue to appear at a rate of approximately 1 to 2 patients per year. These individuals, found in various states of distress and always displaying complete daytime mutism, invariably speak in the same unknown language during their sleep. Linguists who have studied the available recordings in secret describe the language as evolutionarily impossible, containing grammatical structures and phonetic patterns that couldn't have developed naturally on Earth. More disturbing still, the content of these dream speeches, when partially translated, appears to describe events and locations that don't exist in our reality. The question that haunts researchers isn't whether Marcus Whitmore was telling the truth about the second place. The question is, what happens when enough messengers have been sent to our world to complete whatever mission Marcus failed to accomplish? According to the dream testimonies of subsequent patients, that threshold is approaching rapidly. In the basement archives of Millbrook State Hospital, now closed and abandoned, 437 hours of Marcus Whitmore's dream speeches remain locked away. The recordings are deteriorating, and no efforts have been made to preserve them. Perhaps that's intentional. Perhaps some knowledge is too dangerous to preserve. But on quiet nights in rural Ohio, locals sometimes report hearing strange languages being spoken in the darkness, carried on the wind from the direction of the abandoned hospital. They describe voices that sound almost human but not quite, speaking words that seem familiar yet completely incomprehensible. And sometimes, just sometimes, those voices are answered. The Marcus Whitmore case remains officially classified as resolved. Through patient discharge, his file lists his condition as selective mutism with accompanying sleep disorders. There is no mention of the unknown language, the impossible linguistics, or the warnings he claimed to carry from another realm. But in the margins of Dr. Voss's final report, written in handwriting that wasn't hers, someone added a single line. In English, "We are running out of time." Marcus Whitmore was never seen again in the waking world, but according to the testimonies of other patients who developed his condition, he continues to appear in their dreams, teaching them the language of the second place, and preparing them for a convergence that grows closer with each passing night. The recordings may be sealed, the witnesses may be silenced, but the voices continue to multiply. And somewhere, in the space between sleeping and waking, between our world and the second place, Marcus Whitmore continues his mission as a messenger for something that refuses to stay on the other side. The question isn't whether you believe this story, the question is whether you've been having dreams in a language you don't recognize. Because according to the sealed files, that's how it always begins. Sweet dreams.